What is up, guys? Welcome to the first video of our weekly series, the Deck Dr. Dre, where I take user-submitted lists via Discord PM, link in the description below, make alterations based off of the user's given parameters, and then play a single match with it on global matchmaking. If you guys want a more in-depth description of how this video series is going to work, make sure you check out the YouTube video Introduction to Deck Dr. Dre, but that's basically the rundown of what I just gave you. As you can see, we're in a little bit of a new space. We got different lighting, a little bit of a different sound. So bear with me as changes are made to the whole view and setup, because I will be adding a few more things as time goes on. Anyway, I want to hop right into it because this video is going to be pretty long. And we're going to be taking a look at a red-green list from my beautiful viewer, Mifian. And he calls it red-green test, but to sort of describe the archetype that this is, I'm going to go with red-green beatdown. I call it red-green beatdown because we have 16 creeps, which is quite a few, and it seems that the purpose of the deck is to sort of overwhelm your opponent early with some powerful creeps like Legionnaire, Stonehall Elite, the Savage Wolf Duelist, all that good stuff, to push advantage early on boards and then finish them off with a little bit stronger creeps like these Thunderhide Packway at the end, backed up by some powerful spells like Divine Intervention, which makes all of your dudes immune for a round, which is, you know, pretty strong. And yeah, so it can sort of snowball pretty early because you also have some really beefy heroes that can kill your opponent's heroes right off the flop. And yeah, so I think that's the purpose of the deck, and that's why I call it red-green beatdown. I'm going to sort of be explaining some of these, what I think are sort of basic terms or basic concepts, because I think it will help sort of decipher how I make changes to lists as I'm looking at them. So if you guys are interested, then maybe you can submit some lists too. Anyway, I'm going to move the deck over because we're going to look and start to talk about the changes that I made, because I wanted to really hone in on the idea of the deck being red-green beatdown-esque, which means that I wanted even more creeps. I wanted to snowball the advantage even earlier. I wanted to buff up the numbers of some of our more powerful cards and then lower the count of some of our cards that I think were a little bit more replaceable. So I'm going to go over my deck as opposed to saying I made X change for X change, because I don't think it was very linear. I just made a lot of changes based off of what I think the deck is trying to accomplish. So I started with the heroes because the only hero I really had an issue with the submitted list was this Sven. Now, I think Sven is good because one issue that red-green can run into is that decks that go wide on the board can sort of just push damage without us being able to snowball our advantage with our bigger creeps because we can't go as wide. And Sven is good because he just inherently has cleave equal to half of his attack rounded down. But in general, I think that we can push damage a little bit faster than Sven is able to because he only has, like I said, he has base 5 attack. And I just am, generally speaking, not super happy with that amount. So I replaced Sven with Ursa. Ursa is a 7/10. In fact, let's slide this over, or slide it down. Ursa is a... still can't see it, but you guys know what Ursa is. So Ursa is a 7/10. Hits way harder. Ursa's signature spell Enrage gives a red hero +4 attack and +4 armor for a round. So we push damage faster, we kill heroes more efficiently, and in general I think the hero is just a little bit faster. So that's why I decided to switch those out. The next thing I wanted to do is I just wanted to up the numbers a little bit. So our user was only running 2 Bronze Legionnaire. I just went up to 3 because it's by far the strongest creep you can play on turn 1. I think I kept the creep count the same for the creeps that were submitted. But one thing I did change is I changed some of the creeps that were actually in it, and I replaced some of the spells with creeps. Because I think the creeps are really what make a deck like this really strong. You have Bronze Legionnaire, which is by far the strongest creep you could play on turn 1. You have Stonehall Elite, which is considered one of the best creeps ever. Savage Wolf is already in the deck because it's Lycan's signature creep. So super strong drops that you can play really early on. This is round 1 and round 2. I added a Mercenary Exiles because I like having just one more creep we could potentially play on round 1, that if we have a bunch of extra gold that we can pump into it to make the Mercenary Exiles really big. This is especially effective on the 3rd lane because you can build up gold from lanes 1 and lanes 2 and then activate its ability on lane 3. To potentially even kill a hero if you've accumulated enough gold early on. So I upped the creep count a little bit. We have it up to 20 because one of the other creeps I added was Ogre Conscript. This dude is just beefy. Here, we can move this list out of the way now, actually, for the sake of clarity. I added Ogre Conscript because the dude is just a fatty. He is a 7... Oh my gosh, please. He is a 7/2/7 dude for 6. So this is especially strong coming off of Roseleaf Druid because Roseleaf Druid buffs your mana by 1. It gives you 1 additional mana as long as the Druid is out on the battlefield. So going from mana 4 to mana 6 immediately and skipping mana 5 means that Ogre Conscript's a really strong turn 3 play that you can make. And again, just this whole idea of beat down, pushing damage fast is part of the reason why I'm adding some of these creeps. Some of the other changes I made were getting rid of some of the early spells. Our user had Poise to Strike, which is give a red hero +4 attack for a round. I think the spell is pretty mana efficient, but we have Ursa now, and Ursa's signature gives us +4 attack and +4 armor for a round, which I think is just objectively better, even considering the mana cost. So I took that out, and that was partially in place for some of the other creeps. To go over some of the other cards that I changed real quick, I have Remuska Blessing, because I think this is by far one of the best ways to make your board sticky. Originally, Mifian had 3 Divine Intervention. I cut it down to 2 and was actually thinking about cutting it down to 1. Because, of course, one thing that this deck can run into is like, okay, but what if our opponent is running these other beefy heroes, beefy creeps, and whatnot? And the best way to do that is to just make your guys even beefier, right? So for 3 mana, the fact that Remuska Blessing gives +3 health to all of your allied units in a given lane can be really huge. Like, if you even have 4 units, 3 units, that's +9 health or +12 health for 3 mana that you can play cross lane. So the card's just really strong, and I think is in a deck like this, a beatdown, mid-range-esque type deck, you really just need these Remusks. Couple other noteworthy inclusions. I have 2 Mist of Avernus, because I think that Mist of Avernus is a slightly overrated card in Constructed. In Draft, it's extremely strong if you play it on turn 1, and it's really strong in Constructed too if you play it round 1, but generally speaking, I think that the Mist doesn't necessarily need to be a 3 of, especially because if you don't play it round 1, it like very quickly starts to drop off in value just because it takes a decent amount of time for it to accumulate its +1 attack. So I have 2 Mist because if you do play it on round 1, it's really strong, but I don't think the card is like absolutely necessary. I cut down a single enough magic. I think playing 1 as it is a pretty tricky card. And I do think that in very certain scenarios, it's really powerful, but it was originally a 2 of, and I decided to cut it down to 1 because I thought more creeps, less tricks. I kept the Cheating Death. Cheating Death is really strong. Again, just making your board sticky can be really powerful, especially against some of Blue's powerful AoE spells like Annihilation, Thunderstorm, all those cards that you might run into. So yeah, generally speaking, I think that this list is pretty strong. We kept our initiative gaining card against those blue decks. And, yeah, I think I just mostly tried to maximize the number of creeps that we had and minimize the number of combat tricks that we didn't necessarily need or needed to rely on because our creeps will be strong enough as is. I cut the Satyr because we were at so many 4-drops as is, and I actually think that Stonehall Elite and Savage Wolf can snowball a little bit harder than the Satyr can, simply because the Savage Wolf and the Stonehall get health as well as attack, whereas the Satyr only gets +2 attack at the end of every combat phase. So those are the changes I made, and I'm going to create a separate video or just attach another video of me playing the deck, and let's see how it goes. So see you in the next one. Alright, so just for fun, I was going to make this a separate video, but let's see if this game goes fast enough, because I do think this deck, like I've said thousands of times already in that first video, I do think the deck has the ability to snowball pretty hard. So we're going to go into global matchmaking, and if this game is quick enough, then we'll include it in the same video. Otherwise, we'll end up doing a separate one. So it looks like we're going against a black-green aggro deck, which should be interesting. I haven't played one of these before. That is a deck that I'm interested in trying out. It looks like our Treant is going to be taking the L here from this Phantom Assassin. But one thing that is really nice is that we have this Mist of Avernus that's coming out on round 1 that we get to choose where it goes. And this is exactly why I have this. Mist of Avernus really shines when you can play it on round 1 in any given lane. And I think we're going to end up throwing it in this lane for a couple of reasons. First of all, we have a green hero coming in next round, which we probably aren't going to throw back in this lane, since we're kind of already taking an L here. And like I said, I want to snowball as soon as we can on lanes that we're probably already winning, or closer to winning than we will be on this one. And the reason why I want to put the Mist on this lane is because we already have this Sorla that's going to be dying to our Bristleback once we get to this lane. So we'll have killed their hero as opposed to killed their creep on this lane with the Legion Commander. So Mist of Avernus is definitely going there. We'll get the effect right off the bat. Typically speaking, I don't like playing the Mist of Avernus on the same lane that we're casting it from, because we don't get the effect until later. So our opponent just passed. We're just going to pass too. Bristleback starting to buff himself a little bit with some armor. We got a little bit of gold. Life is looking good. Okay, defend the weak. Okay. Don't know what to do there. Don't have to do anything. So we're already thinking about our opponent's Drow coming down next round and our Lycan coming down next round. We won't know exactly where he's going to put the Drow until we see where the creeps spawn, but my guess, based off of what the boards look like right now, would be he's probably going left lane, because that's where Drow will be the safest. Okay, easy trade. Now let's see where the creeps go after we go through the item phase. I forgot to go over the item deck. I didn't make any huge changes to the item deck. Just cut down some of the more expensive items and put down the a couple of more solid items. We have 3 Stonehall Cloak instead of 2, a couple Phase Boots, Blink Daggers, because Blink Daggers are absolutely necessary in every constructed deck you play, pretty much. Okay, we're faced with a tough choice here because we have both creeps spawning this way, but we have our Mist on this lane. I think he's going to leave this lane alone regardless. A Savage Wolf on this lane would be really nice, though. The reason why I'm thinking about this is because we have this Arm the Rebellion in our hand, which could give our creeps +2 attack and +1 armor, which would have them survive against the Lycan. I don't think it's going to be a big deal, though. Let's get the Mist lane rolling. Like I said, Drow goes over to left lane because Drow's just not going to die, most likely, over there. We have initiative, which isn't really going to matter. We drew another Mist of Avernus. That definitely changes up our plays a little bit, because we now can cast this Mist of Avernus from this lane onto this lane, and these 2 lanes are definitely our focused ones. We also are already killing all the creeps here. It's just the earlier you can get a Savage Wolf, the better. Especially when your opponent absolutely has no way to answer it. I think to stick with what the deck is actually trying to do, it's probably going to make more sense to throw down our Savage Wolf and to just develop our creeps as soon as possible, because Mist isn't going to be as relevant if we can't get creeps down in the first place because our opponent is killing our heroes. And our opponent is playing black, so they have a pretty easy ways to kill our heroes. So I think I'm just going to throw down the Savage Wolf here. We've got really bad arrows with this Bristleback. We're wasting 12 additional damage here, which is a bummer. Wow, and the wolf is targeting the creep too? Literally the worst arrows. Actually the worst. That's crazy. So the Mist here is pretty scary, and as much as I want to develop this Stonehall Elite, I also don't want our opponent to end up getting a board of, like, double creeps. Okay, that makes things more interesting, though. So, I don't want our opponent to get, like, double creeps and double heroes and then get a huge buff from the Mist, because our opponent is basically they've already won this lane for the most part. So we need to make sure that we can solidify our position on this lane. So if we played a Stonehall Elite and it curved over to the Lycan, that would be awesome, because then we would kill it. But I think I'm just gonna get rid of this mist while we can. Get a draw card too, which is always nice. Cheating Death will be good against a black aggressive deck. Buffing up the Legion because she's currently the only hero on this lane. Though that's about to change here in a bit. I am going to buy the heal because our bristleback is a little bit low. Okay, we did get a creep going over this way, so we for sure want a green hero going over here so we have access to both colors of mana. And I think because our opponent also has all of his creeps going over this way, we need more pressure on this lane if we want to take it over. He'll probably end up putting one hero over this way and one over this way. But I think I'm going to just double commit my heroes over to this lane. Okay, so it looks like he also decided to double commit with his flop. So we've already essentially won mid. Our opponent has already essentially won left. They're not getting any unlucky arrows. Must be nice. So this is really cool, actually. So this mid lane, we know for a fact it's going to happen. We are going to win this lane. Our opponent doesn't have any hero redeploys coming in next round. So we actually get to use this mid lane to cast our Cheating Death over to the right because we don't need to worry about what is actually happening on the mid lane. We know what's happening. We have won. So we're going to cast Cheating Death over here because it's going to make it so that if he does have removal spells for our stuff, there's a chance that our guys don't die. Which, as you can imagine, is obviously pretty good. Okay, so we have a couple options here. Couple options. We can duel something. We could duel the Lycan or duel him, and we would kill them. We can play an Arm the Rebellion to buff the creeps. That doesn't really do anything. We can play a Stonehall Elite. That doesn't really do anything. We can play a Mist. That doesn't really do anything.
5 seconds remaining. 3, 2.
I think I'm gonna duel the Lycan with the Legion for a couple reasons. First of all, as you noticed, our Treant Protector was going down to 2 health, and our Ursa was gonna go down to 1, and then they both would die on upkeep because of March of the Machines. So by getting rid of the Lycan, not only do we get rid of this armor buff here so we can kill the Sorla, but also it reduces the amount of damage that our Ursa and our Treant is taking. Which makes our board just stickier. We get to kill a hero. He doesn't have any heroes deploying, like I said. Now the question is just, do we need to heal something or not? I don't think so. I want both these creeps to survive, but at least one of them surviving would be nice.
3.
Okay, one did survive. Now it's going to have to survive the March of the Machines next round too, but we'll figure that out in a second. Let's take a heal instead of the second health buff here. I know the second health buff is good, but just in case our opponent has damage like he does with laser, we want to be able to heal. I can definitely see an argument for taking the cloak there on top of the phase boots. Conscript. Okay. We can't play that on this lane, unfortunately, because our Tyler State sensor from our opponent is keeping us down to 5 mana. We have definitely won this lane, like I said. We really need to punch a hole in these guys this next round, because oh, gank. Let's see. Are we high rolling on the Cheating Death? We are. Okay, so our Ursa survived. That's pretty huge. Another chance for our Ursa to die with the March of the Machines. Oh, and our opponent conceded. So I guess that goes to show you the power of cheating death. That is why that card is in the deck. Our opponent had to use their hero's life and a removal spell to try and get rid of our hero, and they ended up not being able to do so because of the cheating death. So I know that game didn't totally exemplify the power of the red-green beatdown deck, but it did show that you can snowball early. Our heroes are just generally speaking a little bit beefier than our opponent's heroes, especially when they're playing black, and those guys have low health. And yeah, I mean, we took out that mid lane by mana 6. We were about to take it out. And I definitely think that's the point of the deck. So make sure you guys like the video, comment anything you want to add. I know I missed out on a couple things. I'll for sure try and make the next Deck Doctor video a little bit more polished and improved. And yeah, just let me know what you think. Subscribe to the YouTube, all that good stuff. And hopefully I see you guys in the next one.
Peace, bro.